So I saw all 6 episodes of Knuckles on Paramount Plus, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts about it. So Knuckles is a 6-episode series taking place between the events of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movies. It stars Knuckles for the most part, and also stars Wade. Knuckles is working alongside Wade. Knuckles is going to train Wade to become a great warrior as they go on a road trip quest adventure. I'm going to give you the good, I'm going to give you the bad, I'm going to give you the nerdy. So this is gonna be my thoughts about the series. I am gonna get a little bit detailed in some of the plot points of this show, so just letting you know in case you're worried about spoilery things. There's nothing too spoilery in this show, like there's no new character reveals or anything like that. It's just more about if you don't wanna know anything about the story, because I'm gonna tell you the things that really work in this show and the things that don't. The best thing about Knuckles, surprise, surprise, is Knuckles. And whenever you have Knuckles in this show, it is so good because Idris Elba just really knows how to play that character so well. Knuckles is funny, but he's funny because of how serious he is. That's what's so great about him. He always wants to be a warrior. He always thinks about combat. He always thinks about fighting and honor and all that kind of thing. So anytime someone has a different way of being around him or trying to interact or respond to what he's doing, that's where you're always gonna get your best comedy. It's character-focused comedy. It's so good. And Idris Elba never breaks character as Knuckles, so it works every single time he's on there. I particularly loved in the first episode when he's trying to adjust to living at home, because post Sonic 2, he's now living with the Wachowskis. He's there with Maddie, and he still doesn't know how to like rest because he's been a warrior his entire life. So he's making a throne, puts in the dining room, says you have to battle him if you want his seat on the throne. He's literally capturing people and dogs and making them combat against each other. Anyone that tries to fix Maddie's house, he's attacking them because he thinks they're attacking the house. It's just really fun antics. And then you get to see Maddie respond to that, as well as Sonic and Tails. That's some really good stuff. Not to mention the CG on Knuckles looks amazing. I mean, it is pretty much movie quality CG in a television series, and that is very awesome. A lot of the CG looks really good, particularly with Knuckles, and I found that that's amazing for the times that you see him on screen. Oh, and when Knuckles pulls out those flame hands and just starts fighting, oh my gosh, that stuff, yeah, like that stuff's good, man. When Knuckles is in battle, I was loving it. I'm like watching a video game come to life, man. I was enjoying that stuff. That was doing this show shine. And the fact that it also had great CG to go along with it, that's a top notch. You could have just made a 1-hour special of just that, and I would have been happy. I've been like, great. Got me ready for Sonic 3. And I love that they peppered in some Sonic video game references throughout this series. For example, we already know they live in Green Hills, but there's at one point where Knuckles leaves Green Hills and he's being tracked by gun agents, and they say he exited the Green Hills zone. There's also a winter resort in this series that's called Ice Cap, and they go to Reno, which is basically Casino Night Zone. Knuckles, a kid and the chief elder that's voiced by Christopher Lloyd in this, he shows up in a couple of scenes. Knuckles gets his hat. They show the origin of that, so I thought that was really cute. There's a training course that Knuckles goes through. Even at the end of the course, he has a goal sign that spins around, so I thought that was really nice. And there's some other video game references peppered throughout as well. So that stuff is really cool. Knuckles even glides at one point in this show, which I thought was really cool. And they even have Wade on top of him while he's gliding. It's giving E.T., it's giving Neverending Story. It was a little cute moment. But it was nice to see Knuckles glide. Nice to see him use one of his other abilities in this series. And of course, all the interactions with Knuckles and Wade. Wade is trying to be taken more seriously as a person, and Knuckles wants to train him to become a warrior. And that dynamic, of course, works really nicely when you have them together. When you have Knuckles and Wade together, they bounce off of each other so well because Knuckles is so serious and Wade is so goofy. And so them working together brings out some really fun times.
You have any hobbies?
Honor.
Honor's really more of a principle than a hobby.
Victory.
Maybe I should restate the question. What do you like to do for fun?
Vengeance.
And I know it was ridiculous, but I love the gag of Knuckles constantly breaking the radio in the car. And of course, the geek in me appreciated Wade's childhood bedroom because it was just filled with movie posters and cartoon posters and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles posters and bed sheets and a t-shirt. Respect. And I like the bad guys in this show when they were there. So you have 2 gun agents, one of them played by Kid Cudi, but you have these 2 gun agents who are trying to track down Knuckles once they realize that he left the safety of Green Hills. I especially love Agent Willoughby. She has this really interesting story about how she joined up with Gun because she wanted to take down extraterrestrial activity. She wanted to stop all the aliens from coming in. But now, Gunn wants to like work with the aliens and be friends with them, giving all the Olive Garden gift cards and making the fake wedding that happened in Sonic 2. And she's like, that's not what I signed up for. Her whole speech about that was very powerful and dynamic. I love that. And then there's the buyer, who has this amazing voice, by the way. I love his voice. I love his scary demeanor.
Knuckles the Echidna. It's an honor to meet you at last.
He used to work for Dr. Robotnik, so he has a vendetta as well. And something else I thought that was really interesting with this series that the bad guys set up is that whenever Sonic and crew were in battle, sometimes they left quills behind, or sometimes they left rings behind, or sometimes Robotnik's devices were left behind. So the buyer and some of the gun agents have been picking some of these things up over time. So they have some of Knuckles' quills, which they're able to use to put inside of their technology to make them even stronger. They actually have some of the rings, so they actually can open up portals. I thought that was a very interesting dynamic of like, oh yeah, if they were in battle, some of the stuff probably was left behind. But the only problem with the bad guys is that they're hardly in it. Like, they show up really strong in the first couple episodes, and then they disappear for a long time. And then they show up like right at the end, only to be pretty easily defeated. The agents get taken out real quick towards the end. Even the buyer, who has this really amazing mech suit and fights Knuckles, the buyer literally is at the beginning and the end and just comes out of nowhere like, I'm ready to fight you, Knuckles. So I thought it was really weird that they had these really good villains set up that you think would be in hot pursuit of Knuckles and Wade throughout the entire series, but instead they put out like a bounty hunt hit on him. And so you have these random bounty hunters that try to capture him throughout the series, but you don't really have the actual villains that were interesting throughout the series until the very end, only for them to be taken out pretty quick. That was very odd because I really liked their dynamic. I really liked that that was a nice threat for Knuckles and Wade to have. I was watching this series with a friend of mine and we were laughing at how many scenes we saw where Wade is talking to Knuckles, but Knuckles is conveniently off screen. Like, Wade will be yelling inside of a room, I'll come back soon, Knuckles. Okay, Wade, but you don't see Knuckles, or Knuckles is always talking to Wade on a phone or through a device. It's like, all right, that's how you keep Knuckles on the show without animating him. Good job. That's how you cut those corners. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and act like that every single time that Knuckles is not on screen, I wasn't enjoying myself. There are some interesting parts that happen without Knuckles. There's one crazy rock opera sequence that at first I was like, what is this? But by the end of it, I was like, I'm kind of digging this. There's songs, there's lyrics, there's performers in all black so they can move props around. There's puppets. There's like a Knuckles puppet. There's a giant beast that's done with puppetry. There's a part where Wade is dressed as Knuckles and he's running through what looks like a level of Sonic the Hedgehog. I actually dug that. I thought that was really cool. I was like, okay, this is the kind of thing where if you're not gonna have Knuckles on screen, if at least you're doing something creative and you're still doing something that's Knuckles related, I can deal with that. I understand you're not gonna have Knuckles in this thing 100% of the time, but at least when you don't have him, you're still focused on the show and the concept of Knuckles as a character, even if he's not there. So that works for me. I also like the parts with Knuckles and Wade's mom. I thought that was really cute that Wade's mom and Knuckles were kind of connecting. She even listens to his stories like, oh, I think you're Jewish at one point. So she shows like Knuckles' Jewish cuisine and he gets all into that because Knuckles for the whole time has been into grapes and Cool Ranch Doritos. Nice plug. And there's this one really cool fight sequence where Wade's mom's house gets attacked by bounty hunters and there's this 360 shot. This is basically like the Daredevil hallway scene for Knuckles, but it's a 360 shot in the kitchen of Knuckles and Wade's mom fighting these bad guys. Knuckles, of course, is using his fist and Wade's mom is using like pots and pans and stuff. That was really awesome. Like when that kind of stuff happens with other characters, I'm fine with that. When it's about Knuckles and when it's about Knuckles and Wade, it actually works out well. But there's a number of times when there's not Knuckles, and that's when the show starts to falter just a little bit. Then there are parts of the story where it is just about Wade, because you got this whole thing of Wade not going home to see his mom, and she's upset about that. You got Wade and his sister Wanda. They bicker all the time, and they were trying to set up that she's an FBI agent, so she was more successful than Wade, but she acts just as doofy as Wade to the point where I was almost questioning if she wasn't an FBI agent. But they bicker, and it gets to the point where I understand that Wade's supposed to be like a man-child or whatever, but like it got to the point where I was like, I feel like I'm watching 7-year-olds fight. Then they bring in daddy abandonment issues. We find out that Wade's dad had left him in a TJ Maxx when he was a kid and then went on to become a famous bowler. So now Wade is trying to go to Reno to win a bowling tournament that he knows his dad is going to be in and reconnected with his dad, also win the bowling tournament, also realizing that his dad may not be all what he seems. And all this time I'm going, where is Knuckles? And we get the whole bowling tournament. Like, we have a whole bowling tournament. They even bring in Rob Hubel and Paul Scheer to be ESPN 8 The Ocho to commentate on it. There's even a part in the last episode where we get the big battle with the buyer and Knuckles, and they have a fight, and the fight kind of ends, and then they go back to the bowling tournament. What? The issue is not Knuckles not being in it. Knuckles is in it for a good amount of time. The problem is he's very prominent at the beginning and he's very prominent at the end, but in the middle, you can tell he's missing because it becomes very focused on Wade and less on Knuckles at that point. Like, everything's there, but it's just kind of placed weird. Could have been peppered a little bit out throughout the series to make it feel like it flowed a little bit better. And then there are story elements and even a couple of characters that we honestly just didn't need. They were saying Knuckles never knows how to relax. He doesn't know how to have fun because he's spent his entire life trying to survive. He's the last of his kind. He's always had to battle. Meanwhile, Wade has always been seen as a goof off, doesn't know how to do anything serious, doesn't know how to be the warrior that he wants to be. So I feel like that alone is the dynamic for your entire show. Have Knuckles teach Wade how to be a warrior, at the same time, have Wade teach Knuckles how to have fun, how to have a good time, how to relax. You could have just done that for an entire 6 episodes and would have been fine. Also, all the stuff when Knuckles at home with Maddie, trying to adjust to living on Earth, living in a home when he's used to living in a battleground. When you start bringing in bowling tournaments and stuff like that, you're like, what is all this about? And what does this have to do with Knuckles? This is all about Wade now. And it's fine, but then call the show Wade and Knuckles, you know, which we would have still appreciated because you would have had and Knuckles in the title. Like, there's some random human characters in this. Like, there's this whole running gag with this family as a couple and a little girl. The little girl beats Wade in a bowling match. And they're like throughout the whole series because she hates Wade at the beginning of it, makes fun of him, but then by the end, she's like, you have my respect, Wade. And I'm like, wow, this little random girl has an arc. Is your name Maria? Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the show. I had a good time with the show, but I definitely see the parts of the show where I go, this is really not necessary in a show called Knuckles. But whenever we have Knuckles, whenever Knuckles is on the screen, and even when Knuckles is interacting with Wade, and I think when he's working with Knuckles, that's when it shines for both of them. The show also uses a lot of pop songs, and I will admit that some of them kind of fit for the right moment. Like, using The Warrior is a really good call. Still wish they would have used a little bit more of Sonic music though, because Sonic music is so good. Although I do appreciate that they made a theme song for Knuckles, like a brand new song about Knuckles. I kind of feel like it was supposed to be the theme song for the series until they got the rights to use The Warrior. But I thought it was really cute that they made that, as well, of course, as that rock opera about Knuckles. Also, was it just me, or was there at least 2 or 3 songs that were in the series that they also used in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem? Can I Kick It? That was in this. Can I Kick It? Yes, you can. And then that song that they use when Splinter is fighting, Push It to the Limit, I think that's what it is. And that was a Paramount movie as well. So I'm like, Paramount, do you just have a library of songs that you're like, this is what we pull from? And I'm just gonna let you know right now, sorry if it's a spoiler, Sonic and Tails, they're in episode 1. Maddie, Tika Sumter, she's in episode 1, which is a shame, a travesty. She should have been throughout the entire series. Why couldn't she be on the adventure too? Why can't she go on an adventure? I need a Maddie adventure with one of these characters. Can we please have that? Because, you know, I'm just saying. At the end of the day, I think Knuckles is cute and it definitely has some really good, fun scenes in it. I just wish that it was more focused on Knuckles and even on Knuckles and Wade, because whenever that happens in the show, I think it works best. And I think that's why the parts when it doesn't happen feel a little bit like, because when they do it so well. But I feel like especially after Sonic 2, the people that are working on the Sonic franchise realize how important and how successful they're being when they dive deeper into the Sonic lore, when they dive deeper into these characters and their references and their backstories. And I have a really big feeling, fingers crossed, that Sonic 3 is going to be the result of that. So maybe Knuckles is one of those things that was made during the transition, but maybe if they make like a Shadow series or something later on, I think now they might be in the mindset of like, okay, let's really hone in on what goes on in the Sonic stories and how we can still keep it in our world, but figure out how to put more of that in a series. So the next time we may feel like whatever character they want to focus on is having an arc throughout the entire show, as opposed to just popping in every now and then for some cool scenes. But overall, I still enjoy the show, and I still think it's pretty wild that we have a live action Knuckles television series that happened. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts about Knuckles were, and if there's ever anything else you want me to talk about in movies or TV or streaming, let me know. I love it like a play cousin. I'm Audi 5000.